always want the manager to be able to get right back into managing when the inning starts. And here is Chris Woodward to lead off for the Mets at Wrigley Field against Sean Marshall.
He followed your idea there about the runs they left out there early and whether they're going to come back to haunt him. And we all know that there's been a lot of talk, not only here in Chicago but nationally, about whether Dusty should stay or will he stay, et cetera, et cetera. I break things down very simply, John. The only thing that matters in this game are wins and losses. Everything else is pretty much window dressing. I mean, we can talk about the injuries to Pryor, we can talk the injuries to Wood, we can talk about the slumps, we can talk about all the things that have gone wrong for the Cubs this year. But the ultimate gauge is going to be wins and losses. And you have to decide, if you're Jim Hendry, whether those wins and losses are caused by Dusty Baker or caused by the makeup of this ball club. See, I look at this ball club, and I've looked at it for the last 3 years, and they were always seem to be depending on Pryor and Wood to come back and be the leaders of the staff. I always thought that was a mistake. I felt like, in fact, we were here earlier, and I said anything you get from them should be a icing on the cake. You should be preparing to go to war without those guys. You should be preparing to play for the whole season with some other pitchers. And I think they should have gone out and brought in some other major starters, to help them, and they definitely needed some more offense, as Dusty just alluded to, some guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. We're at a position now, and obviously without Derek Lee, it made it the focus was even more on the offense that wasn't producing. But I just think that, they brought Greg Maddux in here, who was a fine pitcher, and he still is, but he wasn't the #1 or #2 guy anymore. They have Carlos Zambrano, who is everything you could ask for, but they need another horse somewhere in that rotation.
Woodward battling it out with Marshall. 2-2 the count, with Carlos Beltrán and Carlos Delgado to follow. So the big sluggers are following. Woodward hit a home run his last time up in this game. Well, I mean, it's a very good point, and even Jim Hendry now admits that maybe the reliance on those two big guys at the centerpiece of the rotation was a mistake. In center field, Juan Pierre, and Marshall has retired Woodward. One away. Now the big sluggers, Beltrán and Delgado, coming up. Well, in 2003, most of the year they were active at the same time, and the Cubs were 5 outs away from getting to the World Series. And then the next season, they were active together at the same time, less than half the year. Only about a third of the season last year, and not at all this year.
And the one point that Jim Hendry made in the conversations with our ESPN people is that last year Pryor made 27 starts, so he was expecting, that included getting hit, with a line drive, so he figured he would be okay. So that's one of the reasons he felt like he didn't need to go out and maybe bring in someone. But I have to tell you, as everyone knows in this game, you never have enough pitching. You just can't have enough pitching, because guys do break down. You do have times where they get overworked and they're not going to be as effective, for 35 starts or 30 starts. But I definitely agree that the offense is more of a...
That ball is hit a mile foul down the left field line. That may be out toward the fire station. They got a little waterworks going over there. Right in that corner is the firehouse. Out on the other side of Waveland Avenue, behind Wrigley Field. They might have gotten a souvenir out there.
But John, one other thing about it is not just about home runs. When you look at this offense, they do not get a lot of walks. They do not move the runners that well. They do not hit with runners in scoring position. All of those things add up over the course of the season. Because you mentioned that the Mets and their batting average are pretty much similar.
Past Marshall. And juggled by Walker. Safe! And this is the wrong time in this lineup to be making a mistake on defense. Beltran is safe on the error by Walker.
Well, we talked about the errors. I mean, they're pretty much in the middle of the pack as far as defense is concerned. He never caught it cleanly. The ball was in the tip of his glove, and he knew he had to hurry because Beltran was running.
clearly beat it out. And yeah.
Well, Dusty realized, he talked about the fact that the wind is blowing out, and anytime you put men on with a team like the Mets, I mean, they're capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark. So you're actually just putting more potential runs on base, and you only have a 5-2 lead.
This guy has hit 22 out of the yard this year. Carlos Delgado. And again, they overload on the left side toward the middle. And back to the bag at first is Beltran. As we saw in the All-Star game, Beltran, not as prolific a base stealer as he once was, but he can still steal a bag if you don't keep an eye on him. Beltran with 12 steals in the regular season this year. Carlos Delgado had a great start to the season. That is a called strike from Sean Marshall. And for the first time, the Cubs are going to get some activity going in their bullpen.
And John, I've been saying this for 3 years, and that is the defense is far more important now than ever before. And we see the web gems every day and all the great plays, but that's not what defense is all about. Defense is making the routine plays and getting the job done. The great plays take care of themselves.
Pierre on the run, dives and can't get it. Beltran will go to second. A base hit for Delgado just in front of Pierre. Now 2 men on, and David Wright is coming up as the possible tying run of the game.
And you know what's funny, John? The reason that he wasn't able to make that catch is the bat before by Delgado. He reached out with one hand and he hit the ball and it went so far. So he's playing deeper than probably would have if he would not have hit that ball over his head, before he had to go back and catch it. And you can see he gives it a great attempt, but he can't come up with it.
Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, is coming in now. It also looked from that replay, Joe, as though he was a little late engaging it. He hesitated a moment and then came rushing in, which also might go back to that previous at bat. So the Cubs are in a little bit of trouble here in the 6th inning. 2 men on, 1 man out, and David Wright, fresh from the All-Star game, 23-year-old. Third baseman of the Mets, the star of the David Letterman show the other night. I saw that show. I mean, he is such a refreshing personality. Nothing seems to get him down. His first at bat in the All-Star game, he hit a home run against Detroit's Kenny Rogers.
Well, that's something you'll never forget, is that first home run in the All-Star game is like your first home run in the Major League. You'll never forget those things.
13th player in history to homer in his very first All-Star at bat. He's got 75 RBIs in the regular season. 2 men on, 1 man out. Sean Marshall in a jam. A little bloop. Falling in there. Base hit. And the bases are loaded. Beltran had to hold from second base to make sure that it fell in. Wow. I mean, it's not like they're beating up Sean Marshall here, and yet they had the bases loaded.
Well, that's the problem. When things aren't going well for a team, little things like that happen. I mean, in the normal, when you're playing well, you make an error, as we saw Todd Walker do, and then next guy hits a ground ball, you get out of it for a double play. But when you're struggling, that doesn't happen. As you can see right off the end of the bat, and David Wright kind of flips it in the shallow right field, and you have to respect his power, so you can't play shallow enough to make that catch. So now the bases are loaded. But the one thing, remember what Dusty said, is he doesn't have to go out and get this guy very often. He knows how to get himself out of jams, and he's definitely in one now.
Cliff Floyd is grounded to first and a homer to right center. Too low with a changeup. So again, with 1 out, Beltran had a routine-looking ground ball to second, and Todd Walker couldn't handle it and went as an error. Delgado then blooped one in just in front of the onrushing Pierre for a single, and then David Wright with a little lob into shallow right field for a single. So he's making good pitches, but not getting anybody out. Infield double play depth for Floyd. Strike on the outside. Floyd didn't think so.
Well, it was a great pitch, because if he misses with that 2-0, I mean, Floyd's in the driver's seat completely. He's going to have to be able, he can sit on a pitch and look for an area. And Floyd may have had a little bit of an argument there.
1-1, and I mean that's the difference between a 2-0 count.
Right, and that's the big difference.
And instead, 1 ball, 1 strike to count. Bases loaded, 1 out. Big moment of the game right here. 1-2.
I guarantee you wouldn't have been able to throw that fastball by him had it been 2 balls and no strikes.
Cliff Floyd is hitting only about 190 against left-handed pitching this year. But he does have a home run against this left-hander tonight. Now he's behind in the count, 1-2. Beltran, Delgado, and Wright, the 3 runners. Time taken. And now Michael Barrett is going to run out and talk to the young lefty. Sean Marshall, who is from Virginia. And there is Roberto Novoa, the big hard-throwing right-hander up in the Cubs bullpen. Sean Marshall went to Virginia Commonwealth University. He's got a twin brother, Brian, who was a 5th-round draft choice of the Boston Red Sox 3 years ago. Sean Marshall, who's in a jam here, facing the veteran Cliff Floyd. Back in left field, and that's a home run! A grand slam for Cliff Floyd. Up into the wind and into the basket. And 4 score. The Mets have gone ahead 6-5.
And John, we talked about this when it was 5-0. The Mets are averaging 5.1 runs per game, and the wind is blowing out. So it just does not, you do not have a safe lead at any time. This pitch is away, and it's the same pitch that was called a strike, and he goes out and gets it. Look at the delay of his hand release right there. He never rolls his left hand over the top. Look at that. That's a perfect example of a good swing right there when the ball's away from you. See, he never rolled his top hand over.
So, an error and 2 bloops, and then an opposite field windblown grand slam. And Cliff Floyd with 2 homers and 5 RBIs tonight. And the changeup, Nady didn't get it. 1 ball, 1 strike.
That was the old bloop and a blast theory that teams talked about when they're behind. We need a bloop and a blast. Well, they got a couple of bloops and a blast.
Cliff Floyd promised his teammates on Friday that he was going to be a much greater help to them in the second half of the season. And Cliff Floyd alongside Jose Reyes in the dugout. Let me tie you down, man.
Now, one thing we talk about in the open is that Cliff Floyd was going to be a big help to him down the stretch because he really balances this lineup.
Floyd has had 4 hits in these 3 games and 6 runs batted in. The first 3 games of the traditional second half of the year. And that's ball 4. Nady is aboard. Still only 1 out. And here comes Dusty Baker.
And it's kind of hard for Dusty to go out there at this point.
Marshall deserved a lot better. Novoa is going to come into the game. Cliff Floyd comes home to Chicago. He's from this area. And there's Novoa coming in. A grand slam for Floyd to the opposite field. And that has put the Mets ahead 6-5. What a year for Dusty and the Cubs. 4 runs are in for the New York Mets, and they are still batting with 1 out. A new pitcher's come on. Novoa, hard hit grounded by Castro. There's the throw to second, dropped by Todd Walker. A would-be double play ball with the catcher Castro having hit the ball, and Ramirez throw right there, and Walker dropped it. And this rally that started with an error by Walker continues on with that error.
Well, John, the first error, obviously, let's take a look at this. A great play by Ramirez. He comes up with it. Now, he makes an accurate throw. It was down a little bit, but it's an accurate throw. And I think he was just trying to make sure he could get the double play away. It looked like he hit him on the heel of his glove. Right. He never caught it. It hit on the heel of his glove. What I was going to say is that first error, it started the inning with 1 out, didn't cause all this to happen. There's some bad breaks, the bad luck, like I say, when things are going against you. Pierre misses making a great catch on Delgado just by an inch or two. The ball that drops into right field, the balls that are dropping in, those are not all Todd Walker's fault.
Now Endy Chávez, the pinch hitter for Feliciano.
Because his first error didn't keep the inning going. You know, it wouldn't have been the 3rd out of the inning. I mean, obviously it's not good to make an error, but all of this can't be blamed on that first play. Now what happens now after the double play attempt, you have to, you know, kind of point a finger at it.
Well, all of it. I mean, the error and the bloops.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And then you had the wind blowing out.
Right.
And the grand slam on what otherwise might have been just a routine fly ball to the left fielder.
That's why I say a lot of this is, you know, just bad luck on the part of the Cubs. I mean, things are happening.
Endy Chávez just got a piece of that one. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count. Facing Roberto Novoa. Valentin is on deck, the leadoff man. Chávez is the 8th batter of the inning. There is Will Ullman, the left-hander, up in the Cubs bullpen now. Now the Mets lead 6-5. They want more. Along the right field line. That's falling. That is a fair ball. Coming around third to score is Nady. Going to third is Castro. And the wind may have blown that one back and kept it fair.
Well, there's been 1 ball hit hard this inning. Well, 2 actually. A great play by Ramirez at third. Stopped the other one, but only Floyd's base hit was hit hard. Here's another one. This looks like it's a little slider down and in. It hits him right off the end of the bat again. And it's a little flare. I mean, you can see his arm was bent. Look at this. Look at this. Watch this. No extension, anything. He's just trying to fight it off. Right off the end of the bat. And as you said, John, the wind may have helped keep it fair.
The wind is blowing straight out. And I think without that wind, that ball would have dropped on the foul side of the line, maybe by several feet. Just barely fair as it was. Chávez is a guy who's got a lot of speed. And so Novoa makes the throw to first base. Here's Valentin. The sun setting to the west. Peeking between the upper and lower decks. The runner goes, and it's a steal, and he stole it easily. Castro wasn't going anywhere from third base. Chávez, 7th steal of the year. So now second and third, only 1 out. 7 consecutive Mets have reached base since Woodward led off the inning with a fly ball out to center. There's Castro at third with Chávez over at second. And Valentin, the 9th batter of the inning. And the Mets want more for the same reason that Dusty was worried that his team didn't get more early on. The wind's blowing out. There may be a lot more runs yet to be scored in this ballpark on this night. But the Mets, and they're kind of making Dusty's point for them. Cubs are getting out-homered here at home by a significant ratio tonight and all the time, all year.
He said something like 2-1.
Well, the Mets coming into this game, or I'm talking about the Cubs. The Cubs coming into this game had hit 35 home runs in their home park and had allowed 66. 3 more tonight, so that's 35. Well, they hit one themselves. 36 hit, 69 allowed. And that's not the way it's supposed to happen.
No, not in your home park. And not in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, if you listen to Ernie Banks.
Well, it's been real friendly if you're a home run hitter coming in from out of town. Runners at second and third. The infield is in. Cliff Floyd's grand slam along the left field line. And that's out of play. Merton gave chase. You know, Cliff Floyd is from this area. We were talking about that. And Bonnie Bernstein was talking about the fact that he got a lot of family and friends here tonight
Yeah, well, he's really one of the few African Americans who hail from Chicago, who've made it to the majors. He's got 30 friends and family sitting behind home plate, so he's really savoring his 6th Grand Slam. Cliff had a bit of a scare in spring training, diagnosed with high blood pressure and some kidney problems. The kidney problems being hereditary. His dad actually had to have a transplant when Cliff was a teenager. But the good news is Floyd stopped taking the medication about a month ago. He's feeling great. He's looking forward to being a major contributor for the Mets in the second half, John.
And I mean, for me, Cliff Floyd is one of the great gentlemen of the game, and a guy who's gone through a lot of adversity in his career. And he really burst out last year with the 34 home runs. And that's up and away now to Valentine. I mean, he was a guy who had so much talent, and he just always seemed to be in harm's way. He had a horrible injury playing first base for the Expos years ago. It looked like it might end his career. The third, diving, Ramirez keeps it on the infield. Cedeno picks it up. That saved a couple of runs from scoring, but Valentine is safe at first with an infield hit. Right now, if the Mets put the ball in play, they're reaching base.
Well, another good stop by Ramirez, and just a couple of years ago, I mean, he made a lot of errors, and he's only made like 5 errors this year, and he's playing great third base.
I mean, this is a tough play because the ball is curving away from you, and he's just trying to smother it, which he does. Just keep it on the infield, and he did a good job of that. Just keep the ball on the infield.
And now you've got Chris Woodward, who led off the inning with a fly ball to center field. You see that, Joe? He made more errors than any other third baseman the last 5 seasons, but just the 5 this year. This should be 2. There's home 1. Back to first. Not in time. Now, if he had, I think, from here, if he had thrown to second base, I think that's a double play and the inning's over.
Well, he said he tried that once this inning.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Normally, if the ball leads you that way, you just go that way. Now watch, the ball is actually to his left. See where it's to his left? It's leading him towards second. And normally that's the way you go. But he chose to come home to make sure another run didn't score. I don't have a problem with that either. Because when you're the Cubs and things are going bad, you want to make sure another run doesn't score.
But the inning is still going, and here is Beltran. The power is up again for the 2nd time in the inning. The bases are loaded. And that's back out of play. Beltran, who'd been batting right-handed tonight, now swings left-handed, and the left side has been his strongest side this year. He's hitting .297 batting left-handed. He's got 21 home runs, or 1 homer every 10 at-bats as a lefty. 5 runs are in. It's 7-5. The Mets leading the Cubs. Beltran is the 11th batter of the inning.
I think the key here is if you can get out of this jam only 2 down, I mean, the game is still in doubt. But if you give up an extra base hit or a couple more runs here, it's going to be tough.
Woodward, by the way, is the first batter of the inning for the Mets who came up with a runner in scoring position and did not get a hit. And how dominant was Marshall before this inning? The Cubs starter, the bad luck starter, tough luck starter. He had not even had a guy bat with a runner in scoring position tonight. I mean, in 5 innings, the Mets never had a guy in scoring position. They'd hit a couple of wind-blown home runs, and that was it. 3-2 now to Beltran, and they'll all be running. Chávez from third, Valentine from second, Woodward from first. There they go. In the wind, deep left center, way back, gone! Another grand slam! Two grand slams in the inning for the New York Mets. Beltran circles the bases with the second of them, and now it is a 9-run inning. 11-5 Mets. Now that has not often happened in the history of baseball.
Well, this shows you exactly what Dusty was talking about. They do not have the power to match other teams. And the sad part is this is a pretty good pitch from Novoa. Look at that ball sinking down and away. He didn't get all of it, but he got enough of it to get it up in the wind. And the wind helped pushes it over the wall. And that's what he's saying, that the wind just helped blow that ball out of the ballpark.
But also an at-bat that might not have been and would not have been had that double play been turned on the ground ball by Woodward.
Well, like I said, I mean, everything after the second error for Walker, you had to point in that direction, because there would have been 3 outs before that play. But that's what happens when things are going badly for you. I mean, you make an error and the other team capitalizes on it. And it doesn't always happen that way, as we know.
2 errors by Walker in the inning. And then the failure to get the double play and what looked like an inning-ending double play ball by Woodward on top of it. And 9 runs are in for the Mets. They lead 11-5. The biggest inning of this season, of this big season for the New York Mets. Carlos Delgado, the hitter. He's 1 for 3. He singled. And that was a big hit in this inning. A looping liner into shallow center. Juan Pierre made a dive for it and could not come up with it. That fueled the rally. 1-2 the count. And slider in the dirt. Well, the Mets, just as Dusty was worried that they had not taken full advantage of their many opportunities in the first 3 innings. They had a 5-0 lead as it was. But with the wind blowing out, Dusty, from a hard experience, knew that may not be enough. The Mets have been getting the big rally, the big inning, a huge inning. And that's a double for Delgado, an opposite field double. The 13th batter of the inning will be David Wright. We're going to go back to the studio now for a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. All right, that's Scott Reese with the SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Bonnie Bernstein from Wrigley Field, Chicago. 9 runs are in for the Mets, including 2 grand slams here in the 6th inning. David Wright, the hitter. Wright hit a little lob into right field. Looked like something maybe he picked up from watching Wimbledon. This could be up for the ESPY for next year, Joe. What is the category that you would put this one in if you're voting in the ESPYs? 2 grand slams in the same inning. Remember there was a guy once, I think it was Fernando Tatis. Remember him, third baseman?
I remember him, but I don't remember the 2 grand slams.
He hit 2 grand slams himself in the same inning. I think at Dodger Stadium. David Wright nominated in this year's ESPY for best play. Remember that barehanded catch he made? Up in the wind. That one is on its way. Goodbye. And everybody's doing it. David Wright with an opposite field home run. His 2nd hit of the inning. That is the 3rd home run of the inning. The first of them where the bases weren't loaded. And 11 runs have scored in the inning. 13-5 Mets, and here comes Dusty Baker. David Wright's 21st home run, 76 and 77 RBIs, and the fans are not happy. It's turning ugly out there in the bleachers. The Mets have hit 5 home runs in this game. Will Ullman in from the Cubs bullpen. And a slider for a strike to Cliff Floyd. Cliff Floyd, the very same Cliff Floyd who hit a grand slam in this inning when his Mets were trailing 5-2. That put them ahead 6-5, and they've been hitting big flies ever since. The slider 0-2. Floyd had hit only one home run all year against left-handed pitching until he homered in the 5th inning, a liner into right center, then a grand slam to the opposite field in the 6th. Holman in the dirt with that one. 1-2. So Floyd's hit 2 homers with 5 RBIs against the left-handed starter Sean Marshall tonight. 11 runs in for the Mets, and Cliff Floyd is the 14th batter of this inning. And that's outside. 2-2 the count. 13-5, the Mets are leading. And Dusty Baker could hardly look any more frustrated or even furious than he is right now.
Well, I don't think there's anything that he feels that he could have done differently.
Now,
because Marshall was throwing the ball well, and he had the error and then 2 bloops.
And in this ballpark,
yeah,
this is the greatest home run park in history when the wind's blowing out like it is tonight.
Yeah, and again, you know, the defense matters. That's the real key to what's happening here today. Defense matters.
That one hit off of home plate, and then it bounced foul.
And not just the defense that we see where they make diving plays in the outfield and all the acrobatic plays. The routine plays, the defense matters. When you look for a shortstop, when you look for a middle infielder, that's the first thing you look for. Guys that can make the routine play. You're not looking for guys that can make the great plays, because great plays are what just happened. But you have to be able to make the routine plays. And that's what you look for when you look for your infield. And that's what a middle infielder is supposed to do.
I mean, when you really look at what's happened in the inning, just on the errors.
Right.
I mean, they've given the Mets at least 5 extra outs in this inning. I mean,
and with the wind blowing out, you can't do that.
You can't do it.
Remember in Boston when they'd have a big lead in Fenway Park, and the wind blowing out on a Saturday afternoon, it's never safe. Well, that's almost every day here in Chicago. I mean, because they're more day games.
If the wind's blowing out.
Yeah.
61 pitches thrown by Cubs pitching in this inning. 3 of them hit out of the ballpark, 2 for grand slams. Way inside with a fastball. Ullman's got a good one. That's ball 4 to Cliff Floyd. David Wright sent Roberto Novoa to the showers with his home run.
Well, this pitch is up and pretty much in the middle of the plate. It's probably the only bad pitch that he threw. And you can see again, look at the hands. That's what I look at. Now, after the ball's gone, you see the top hand roll over. That also gets you the backspin on the ball that drives the ball out of the ballpark. That lets the ball carry out of the ballpark, I should say.
Xavier Nady, ball 1 inside. If you're out into right center, you are looking into some sun out there.
Well, the sun hasn't been their problem this inning.
It was a problem for the Mets yesterday. Ryan Terrio, just up in the minors for the Cubs, hit a fly ball to right field that was lost in the sun by Endy Chávez. And it went for a triple, and that started a big inning for the Cubs, who came from behind to win that one 9-2. 2-0 the count to Nady, and Will Ullman walked Floyd to start his tenure in the mound, and now he's gone to 2-0 to Xavier Nady. And there's Pedro Martinez, who is
ever the character.
Somebody, yeah.
He's always, I mean, a lot of his teammates say he's always keeps them loose. He's kind of a comedian.
He had them worried over this weekend after getting their food poisoning apparently at home in the Dominican Republic over the All-Star break. And he was dehydrated and had lost some weight, and he actually went to the hospital here in Chicago. They put him on an IV, and they checked for some other possible problems and said no, it was just the dehydration. Tonight he actually threw in the bullpen before the game. And that is another walk. Wow. So Novoa has walked 2 since coming in. Ullman on in relief of Novoa. And Larry Rothschild's heading out to the mound. Novoa retired 1 man, although he got a double. He really got 2 double play balls after he came on for Marshall. And one was played nicely, in fact beautifully, by Ramirez, but his throw to second baseman Walker was dropped and they got nobody out. And then one was hit by Woodward, and Ramirez made the fateful decision to go home instead of going to second to start the inning-ending double play, and they did not get the double play to end the inning. And it's starting to look like this inning may never end. Here is Castro. He is the 17th batter of the inning. 11 runs in. This is already the biggest inning in Mets history. This is the Mets' 45th season. Look at that. A big 11 on the board at Wrigley Field. 2 men on, 2 men out. Castro up for the second time. That's a called strike. And a sarcastic cheer from the crowd. Floyd at second, Nady at first, both walked by Will Ullman. 13-5, the Mets lead. Pierre. "13-5 Mets in the 6th.